Hi, good morning, everyone. Good to be here to be able to speak to you at TEDxSoweto. But I'm sure lots of you have, before I go into the actual crux of my speech, I think it's this title, brand archaeologist, that's been confusing a lot of people. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about what I did and what I didn't do, because everyone has different ideas about what this could mean. So I know some of you may be thinking that this is what I do on a daily basis. I'm out there in the trenches, digging it up, finding lots of cool stuff. But in reality, sadly, I've never practiced as an archaeologist, even though I've studied it. What scares me, though, is there might be people who actually think that this is what I do for a living. Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, going out there, stealing some great artifacts and coming back. Thanks to Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford for making the profession I studied sound so exciting. But I don't do this either. But in reality, what I did do and what I did study is I did study archaeology and classical archaeology. In fact, this is a photo of a vase I took recently at the British Museum in London. And it depicts Heracles, who most of you may know as Hercules. And he was a Greek hero who gets lots of airtime and lots of people know him. And if you're really, really bored and at some point you're reading up about some of the things I've been involved in, you may just stumble upon my university project. And this was what I focused on. I focused on Heracles and his task and something called his apotheosis, or his death. So I have this huge passion and love for archaeology, but the reality, as most of you may know here, is that you can't really live and survive and eat as an archaeologist in this country. So I was lucky enough to kind of go into something else that I love, which is marketing and branding. But here I came with all this archaeology knowledge, and I went into branding and marketing, and it seems almost like these two careers don't fit. But in reality, they do. And I'm explaining this based on this very, very nice image over here. This is a nice Roman god named Janus, and he lends his name to the month of January. And the thing about Janus was he had two heads, one head looking back into the past and one head looking to the future. And therefore, he was the god of doors. Therefore, you see him carrying a key over there. And the interesting thing is that we have become such a forward-facing society. I love innovation, but we're so focused on innovation that sometimes we forget to look back and see where we've come from and all the knowledge that we've learned and adapt that and take it forward with us. And because of that, one of the problems that I see right now is that our archaeological record is flawed. And I don't mean just in terms of flawed in terms of that we're not seeing the right stuff and it's not going to survive. Lots of what we're doing, and because of the way we interact with brands, is going to survive. In fact, you may have an archaeologist someday digging this up. Why not? It's possibly going to happen. And we like to think about the technology because that's the sexy side of innovation. But the reality is every single day, all of us in this room have interacted with brands that are so much more important than the technology brands. The toothpaste that you used and the container you used for your toothpaste, your shampoo, the deodorant that you used, the cereal that you ate. These are products you deal with on a much regular basis than the rate at which you buy a cell phone or a new gaming console. In fact, one of the things I'm wearing today is I've got one of my nice little prized possessions. It's a nearly 2,000-year-old Roman ring. It's 1,900 years old. And when archaeologists dug up this ring, we could easily tell you that this ring was designed for aesthetics, for beauty, which was made out of bronze. But what we can't tell you is we can't tell you the human story. What was the reason this ring was created? Was it created as a special gift for a loved one? Was this done as a reward that somebody bought themselves because they were excited about something they achieved? And unfortunately, our archaeological record right now is showing that we're a society of adopters. We easily adopt all the great stuff we find in American society, in European society, but we're not innovating enough as a South African society. In fact, not just as a South African society, but any developing or small developing market in the world is not innovating at a fast enough rate. And because of this, we could risk that in 2,000 years, when people are digging up and finding more about our society, they're going to find out more about an American society or a European society versus our unique South African heritage or our unique Kenyan heritage, if you're from there, or our Namibian heritage, or wherever you may be from. So today, what I want to focus on, now that I'm getting to the actual body of it, is I want to tell you a few stories of exactly how there are some brands and products out there that are actually keeping true to our archaeological record and contributing to a true picture of who we are. In some cases, it's us as South Africans going and taking global products and using it in our own unique way. In other ways, it's us actually innovating and creating products that meet our need. And this is what's going to give a much more true and realistic picture of who we are in the future. So to start off our story, one of the sad realities of our country is that, and I don't have to even tell you this, you've probably heard this before, is that lots of children go to school every single day on an empty stomach. They do not have that first meal and do not have breakfast in the morning. What you may not know is that on their journey from home to the school, they generally pass a really nice little lady who has a nice display that looks like this. And she's got these prepackaged popcorn and chips and lollipops, like the ones that I have here today. And these are great because I know sweets, one of the key things is how many times do you remember saying you're not going to give a child any more sweets because they're going to be bouncing off the wall and they can't take any more? We've all had that. But what's interesting is that these children who come from environments where they haven't had a breakfast use this as their pick-me-up. So as they pass this lady, for 1 rand, they can get 1 lollipop like this, they open it, and they start eating it all the way to their school journey. When they come to school, they take the wrapper they've saved, wrap it again, put it back in the pocket, and they save it for the next break where they'll eat it to give them the hit of energy they need for the rest of the day. It's almost like the way that you have your cup of coffee in the morning, and this is the way kids are using it out there. So while we may be out there and we may say the record may show this product as being a product that's used as a treat, for a number of children out there, and in the record that's left out there, it's actually being used as something that they use to give them that hit of energy that they need to make it through the rest of the day. In fact, I'm going to leave these down. One of the key interesting stories and uniqueness about our society comes from the next story that I'm going to tell. And a few months ago, I had the pleasure of meeting a gentleman named Mokele Mokoti, and we were sitting in Cape Town at one of these really nice fancy restaurants overlooking Table Mountain on a beautiful day with a blue sky, eating all this fancy food, but he was passionate about talking about pap. We sat there, and he went on and on about pap and how amazing it was, and this new innovation that they've created. And I have to admit, I didn't get it at first until he started telling me a story that comes from our transport system. Now, let's look at the child that we discussed there. Imagine what the child's mom may have gone through. The child's mom probably has to leave home really, really early, take 2 taxis, get to a job in Sandton or some developed area, then in the evening do exactly the same thing, return back with 2 taxis, probably getting home by around 8 p.m. And at 8 p.m., you need to cook and make a meal. And one of the staples in our country is pap. But on average, to make pap takes around 30 minutes if you're lucky. And for this mom whose feet are aching, who's been stuck in a cramped taxi and spent an entire day working, spending 30 minutes on pap may not be ideal. So one of the things they've come up with, and I'm going to steal it from the back here, is a pap that cooks in 2 minutes. Imagine what a 2-minute pap meal. I mean, for the rest of us, we're so used to a society of 2-minute noodles, microwave meals, but imagine to this mom out there who comes home, who has limited time, and she's able to make a meal in 2 to 5 minutes. That gives her an additional 25 to 28 minutes that she can spend with her family, or 25 to 28 minutes that she can then use to rest and prepare for the next day. This is real innovation. This is the kind of stories that I want to see in our archaeological record, going out there and showing who we are as a society and what's making a difference to us. So other than the mum who's out there, and this is an example of pap actually being made and the laborious process of how it's been used. In a number of different events and societies, in terms of functions that are happening out there, pap is such a staple part of it. And I have so many friends who've told me, I've had to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning to make sure we're cooking for a funeral. Things that lots of people have experienced here. And therefore, when you have something that can cook in 2 minutes, it just adds so much more time to somebody's day to use in society. So another reality of our society and another story that's important for me is this. I mean, I love the venue we're using because as I drove here today, I saw so many houses that were unpainted or flaking off paint. And lots of us probably take paint for granted because it's something you paint in your house, it looks very nice, and that's it. But paint is really, really important because if you had to paint a house, you protect it from the elements. It means you prevent leakage that goes inside. And also from a psychological point of view, aesthetically, it's very pleasing. It's something that's important to us. But if you live in a home like this, and you need to use public transport, our friendly taxi driver that we saw in the earlier video, in the earlier pic actually, is not going to let you take a 25-liter drum of paint on a taxi. In fact, if you're lucky to get it on, he's going to make you to pay for another seat, and that's money that most homes do not have to actually spend out there. So there's some companies who are looking at this and saying, how can we improve the situation? So one of the products that has recently been invented, thank you, is powdered paint. Look at this. OK, I'm going to put this down on stage. Compare this next to the pup. It's probably just about double the size of pup, so you could put it in a normal bag and take it home. But what's amazing is when you take this paint home, you add some water, and you get 3 liters of paint. You add a little tint. You can have it in any color that you want, which means that you can quickly paint your home. And this is amazing. And what gets even more amazing is the fact that it costs 25% the price of a regular paint that you're going to buy per liter. So it's even cheaper. And the story gets even better and better in the fact that one of the things you don't realize, if you lived in a home like this, if you painted the inside, and any of you who have painted your home knows, that there's a strong odor that actually comes from the paint that makes it so difficult for you to stay in that room. It's toxic, let's be honest. The way this paint has been engineered is to ensure that you can paint in the morning, there's no odor, and you and your children can sleep in a safe, well-decorated, protected home in the evening. And these are the real stories that I want to see out there. And sadly enough, we as South Africans are not innovating enough. We're not creating our story out there. The Greeks and the Romans are important in archaeology, not because they were the only people out there. There were so many societies in the world. But because they were able to create long-lasting historical records, this is why we've had them out in society. I was recently out in the UK, like I said, and I saw these shelves packed full of products, all targeted at the British consumer who's out there. But go into your local store today and just have a look at how many products are really custom designed for our needs and things that we have out there. In fact, one of the key things I'm going to show you is I want to give you a business idea to make somebody a $1 millionaire. How's that? Free idea, first person out of the room who can do this is going to make millions. And here's my story. So in South Africa, you can get, when you get a nick, you can get a plaster in any size you can imagine. But why is it in a country where more than 80% of the consumers are of a darker skin tone, you cannot get one that actually matches your skin tone? Imagine if you launched that and put it out there in the marketplace. So, I mean, this is the reality of the situation. How's that for a beautiful smile? I mean, on the second pic, he actually has a skin tone plaster on, and you can hardly see it over there. So the reality of the situation, and what I want to leave you with, is this. You know, history is gonna judge every society that's out there. They're going to look at the work that we've done. And it's great that we have wonderful societies like the Americans and the US and Europe actually bringing in great innovation. But let's not lose our own identity in the process. Let's remember who we are as a society, not just South Africans, but any country that you may be from, where your market is still developing and coming up. Remember the needs of your society. That's what makes you unique, and that's what history is going to remember you for. And when you go out there, innovate to take care of the consumers in your market. Great. Thank you for your time, everyone. Cheers.